Good morning, Grand Rising guys. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Hi everybody. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? How are you feeling this morning, Grand Rising? What's good, Avira? What's happening, people? Come on in, come on in. How are you this morning? Buenos dias. So, I'm not doing the elements today because I want to talk about something. I was having a conversation with someone. I'm doing good. I was having a conversation with somebody. And you know, when major transits are happening, just so I can explain to you guys real quick, when major transits are happening, a lot of times I feel the frequency like a little bit beforehand. Okay? What's good, honestly, manifest. Okay, so a lot of times I feel this shit before it hits. Hello, sweetness. Okay, so you know, and I'm not one of the people that's afraid to use eclipses. Okay, I feel like you know, one of the examples that I give when it comes to like eclipses, hey my love, and it comes to like the Lion's Gate and some of the more powerful transits, is that it's like a tool. Okay, so like let's say you took a nail and you was trying to push that nail in manually with no hammer, just your fingers. It would take you a very long time. Could you do it? Yes. But it would be a struggle. Your fingers would hurt. You would have to take breaks, right? But if you get a hammer, you can hit it 1 or 2 times and the nail is in, right? So I actually love working with those events, okay? Because I feel like it's boosting the intent. Now, do you have to have some knowledge? Thank you, my love, for the heart me. Do you have to have some knowledge to kind of know what you should target? Yes. You could follow some people like me, and there's plenty of others on here that can tell you what the influence is going to be, right? But I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and it goes into the message of what I want to talk about with you guys, okay? So we were having a conversation, and this person said to me that they don't believe in hope, wishing, or luck. Okay? That they feel that that's for lazy people. That's what this person said. They said that that's for lazy people because motivated people go after what they want. And although I understood this person's perspective about, you know, muscle backing intent, that you have to put actually something into the manifestation, not just sit around wishing, correct? So I understood that part. The problem was that this person did not understand, because they're not a spiritual person, that you are manifesting all of the time. So, for example, for those of you that are new to spirituality, I want you to think about something. Before you came to spirituality, right? If you had like the attitude of like not being aware that you were had this energy that you could influence situations, and you were always saying like, why does this happen to me? The universe only has one answer, which is yes. So if you believe that everything is hard for you, that's the frequency you send out to the universe. That is what the universe is saying yes to. And if you look back to prior to when you were having, you know, you came into spirituality, and you really sit and think about it, I am sure that you will find that a lot of the things that you worried about most, you actually manifested by being in a lower frequency. And that once you you shifted your gaze to manifesting positivity, that's when the synchronicities started showing up. That's when you started receiving messages like to guide you. Now, why the fuck am I talking about this? Because a lot of people, they're doing like 369 method, the 777 method, all types of methods, okay? And I am not saying that those methods don't work. Get in where you fit in, what feels right to you. Try, several different like methods until you hit your method, right? That fits you the best. What's good, Ruby? Right? But here's where we mess up. Okay, here's where we mess up. Words are spells. Thoughts are fucking spells. So if you don't break the pattern of the process, you're recovering from COVID, healing to you. I just had it, healing to you, my love. Right? So, when we don't change the way we look at manifesting, right? So when we start spiritually growing and we're trying to manifest something, but we don't look at the underlying root of the conversation or the monologue that happens in the subconscious with ourselves, then what happens is that underlying program, like a computer, is still running. It's like a window open on your desktop. So you're over here doing these 4 programs, but that program is still running in the back. Okay? So that is the subject matter today. Okay? And per this conversation that I was having with this person, I knew why Spirit had showed me like certain things earlier in the week because I was already feeling the energy. And it was so that we could have a discussion about the subconscious thoughts and manifestation. So that's where we're going to begin. I had to give you that little brief portion so you could understand what the subject matter is about. Okay, so this person was saying to me that they don't believe that hoping is real. And they refuse to believe that they hope. I want to tell you something. Just like sadness is a natural emotion, love is a natural emotion, so is hope. And I can prove it to you. For those of you who may feel hopeless, I can prove to you that hope is a natural condition of the human experience. Okay? So think about this. If you are in a situation and let's say your rent is due on Thursday, but there's a holiday coming up, and sometimes that means that your paycheck will end up a day late, and you're like, man, I hope that shit hits in time so I can pay my shit. That's hope. Okay? So this person's response, and I'm going to go deeper, but this person's response was like, yeah, but that's a word that we use, but we don't really feel the emotion behind that. And I was like, false. And I'm going to explain to you why. Because let's say that you are an offender bender, right? Right? For those of you who've ever been an offender bender, okay? You ever been an offender bender and you see that it's about to happen? What is the first thing that you do? You tighten your body and you take a breath and you shut down, right? Why are you doing that? because the subconscious or the underlying soul of you, right? The id, the part that runs on survival, right? Kicks in and it is automatically thinking, I hope we survive. Okay, if you think about it real clear in those moments, I know it's hard to, because in that moment you're not thinking, right? But when you go back, you'll recognize that you were saying we. Because there's the physical vessel and then there's the soul. Okay? So what I'm trying to say to you is that moment, even though you didn't verbalize the spell, but remember, I told you thoughts are spells. So what happens in that moment? You are taking a deep breath and you are locking down in a protective, trying to protect the vessel energetically. Why? For the hope of survival. Do you understand that it is, if you're understanding what I'm saying, put a heart in the chat. Because it's a natural instinct to hope to wake in the morning. Now, is there depression that happens? That people feel hopeless? Yes. But those are seasons. You follow what I'm saying? Those are through experiences or through a medical reason, right? But a natural state of ours is to hope. If you have a family member, I'm trying to show you something. And then we're going to talk about the eclipse and why I'm bringing this to you now. If you have a family member who's ill, right? Someone you dearly fucking love, and you go to the hospital to see them, and they're fighting, what is it that you say? Fight, please, right? You're encouraging them. Why? Because you have hope that if you encourage them, that they will fight for that. It is a natural emotion of the soul. It is an energetic frequency. Just like I said with the example of the car, like a car accident, right? And you take that fucking deep breath and you shut down. You are really attempting your best subconsciously, your vessel, whether you want to think of it as a program or not, in that moment has shut down everything else to try to put as much of an energetic bubble around you, locking down the aura, attempting to shield oneself. Okay? That's why everything else freezes. Do you understand? So, back to what I was saying. If before your spiritual awakening, you were not aware that you were generating, I suggest everybody go find out what their human design program is. But regardless of whether you're a projector, a generator, a manifesting generator, a reflector, whatever the fuck you are, at the core, you are still an excuse me, guys, an electromagnetic being that is generating and picking up energetic frequencies 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's what your chakras do. That's what they do. It's just that prior to that, you were not aware. So why am I saying this now? Because all that frequency and all that generating that you've been doing since the time that you came through the womb, you were not targeting that frequency for your development. You were targeting that frequency for survival, maybe for love, for whatever, you were doing in that moment. But without the conscious awareness, although your body and your vessel understands that that is a human function and uses it in times of flight, fright, or fight, Think of all the time that you were still generating and receiving, but you were not aware that you could use that frequency to generate change in your life. So do we follow that point before we move on? Are we understanding that there was a lot of lost energy? It would be like a gas pump, right? In the locked position, just fucking pouring out at the gas station. No car hooked up to it. Nobody try to pump gas. It would just be open. A loss of gas. Okay? All right. So now that we understand the basis of why we're having this conversation, imagine if before you try to, and listen, I think a little bit of both is good, okay? Before you try to cultivate all these like gifts of, whatever the gifts you might be cultivating, whether it's like tarot and explore all that shit, right? But most fucking importantly, and I cannot stress this enough, is like figuring out what emotion is going through you and how you can use that frequency, Grand Rising, my love. How you could use that frequency to develop outcomes that you want. Okay, I might have a slightly different outlook than other people, and there's really no wrong way because we all develop our own systems. But I feel like there's not, good morning, honey, that there's not a, like everything can be used. All different types of frequencies can be used. You just kind of need to know how to target. Okay? You need to know how to target. What's good, Copeland? Okay, so for instance, right? If you say, I never have any luck, the universe is saying, you right. Because the universe only has one answer. So the first thing is remove that fucking phrase from your language. I never have any luck. Okay? A, is working against you. B, it's defeatist, and it's talking about thank you, Honesty Manifest. It's talking about how you feel everything has to be hard. So if you catch yourself saying that phrase, then you need to examine what's good, Maritza. Then you need to examine where in your journey you learned that everything had to be difficult for you, and how do you deprogram that language? How do you deprogram that language? And then once you recognize that that's something that you're doing, deprogramming the language is the first step. Deprogramming the thought is the second. Because remember, I said words are spells, but thoughts are spells too. Because I once read a paper many, many years ago, and I'm not going to remember who wrote it, okay? But basically what they were saying was that the average person says about 1,500 words a day, right? And, outside of that, think about all the conversations that you're having with yourself, thoughts, many of which are undermining. So the most communication you have is with your internal. It's in internal dialogue. That's where the meat is, guys. That internal dialogue, that shit works against your manifestation unless you're actively trying to retrain those thoughts. Are we following that? Okay? So I'm going to give you a small way to start deprogramming those thoughts. Okay? Pick one at a time, okay? One at a time. Get yourself a rubber band. You know, the old school brown rubber band. You know, that shit that was tight. Not a loose one, like a tight one, right? Not where it cuts off your circulation, but, you know, one that is not so flexible. Feel me? And every time you hear yourself say that to somebody, or you have a thought that ties into, I never have any luck, or I have no luck, or shit never works out for me, or anything along them fucking lines, snap the shit out of that rubber band. Why? It's really not gonna hurt you that hard, right? But you might notice, yo, I snapped myself in the wrist 20 fucking times today. That shit is crazy. I didn't even realize how many negative thoughts I was generating. Okay? Conversely, let's use it in another way. Let's just say that you're trying to build self-love because you were in a toxic or are in a toxic relationship. Good morning. Okay. And you are in a toxic or were in a toxic relationship, right? And every time you realize that you're talking down to yourself due to said experience, snap that rubber band. Snap that rubber band to remind you, you remind me of a love that I once knew. Okay? It might hurt your feelings a little bit to recognize like, yo, I didn't realize that I let an outside relationship, thank you, Copeland, influence how much I saw myself. Do you understand? And then take it a step further, right? How was that person able to even do that? The reason why they were able to do that is somewhere else, maybe through your parents or through, your childhood, that you learned, to try to make yourself less so somebody else could be more. Right? So you could be doing the 369, the 777, the this, and that. But if you don't believe that you're worthy, right? A clock is right 2 times a day, no matter what. Meaning that, some manifestations might hit because in that moment you might be in the right frequency and you're just starting out, right? But if you want to target your manifestations more like what I said in the beginning about it being like a tool, right? Then what you'll do is you'll go to the root of the undermining frequency, whether this is lack of self-love, whether this is lack of feeling confident that you are worthy or that you can have something or you're afraid to succeed, whatever the underlying thing is, start the deprogramming because that's where the success is. Okay? So, I wanted to go over that because we have an eclipse on Saturday. Okay? We have an eclipse on Saturday. And this is an important eclipse. Okay. And I feel like all the eclipses are important, but specifically with this alignment, it's not going to be back around for like 19, 20 years, something like that. Okay. And it's specifically, with it being by the South Node, okay, because the South Node is in Libra right now, you know, encouraging us to release things that aren't in balance with us, especially relationships of all kinds, right? Or if you're in a committed relationship, releasing some of the toxicity or long-term obstacles to achieve a higher frequency. Okay? So being that that's like the meat and potatoes of this eclipse, it's even more encouraging us to release the things that are undermining us, even if it's our own subconscious thoughts. It's about to be crazy. Photo stationing direct, Pluto stationing direct, as well as very catalytic event. Correct, right? So remember when I said, you know, you can use the emotions, all emotions, okay, to empower certain type of work, right? You trying to do self-love, right? Then maybe you want to concentrate on elevating your frequency all night long, right? Elevating your frequency all day, like, you know, self-love things, you know, do yourself a facial or whatever it is, right? What's good, Madeline? And then when the sun is starting to go down, do a spiritual bath, do a day of like meditation. And I'm talking about the people who are trying to manifest more self-love, confidence, right? Focus that entire day on that, as much of the day as you possibly can. You know, you can set out water. We could talk about that too, but why? So that you can get the love frequency within yourself raised, and then go do some love work. What's good? Unapologetically, Des, okay? So in other words, you do all this self-love for yourself in the 3D, and then maybe after you do your spiritual baths is the time to light a candle, a pink candle, right? And use that powerful eclipse energy to boost that, and you will have set the tone all fucking day. You following what I'm saying? Now some people, it's different elements that bring that to light. Okay, a lot of us, it's water, right? So that spiritual bath, right? Set it up in a particular way that encourages the feeling of self-love, right? Let's say that you are trying to manifest money. Okay, let's say you're trying to manifest money. You know, you want to work with the element of earth and fire to bring like a quickness of transformation. You can do this through incense. You can use things that grow out of the earth, cinnamon, right? Coffee, because it protects and it also empowers. Like, there's a lot of different things that you can do. The point is, you need to target the energy, okay, for what you're trying to manifest. Figure out what's the back emotion to that. Just like we were talking about hope, right? Figure out what it is that you're going to be using to generate what emotion, right? Whether it's love, happiness, sadness, right? There's you can use that energy too, right? Any of the emotions, and then cultivate that emotion before you start your work on the eclipse. Does that make sense? Because then you're using not just the tools, Okay? Not just a particular method, which is 369 or 777 or whatever you're using, but then you're also using the transit. So now that you're up to three methods, right? And then you throw in the energy. Bam. The 4 columns. It's like the 4 legs of a table. It becomes stronger. It becomes sturdy. Does that make sense? I'm going to take a drag of my cigarette. Let me know if that makes sense for you guys. Okay? So I feel like sometimes when we start our spiritual walk, or we're not fully aware, or even, and I think it's very important that before you do any spiritual work, not even on an eclipse, any day, check your emotions, yo. Check your emotions. Are you in the right frequency to do the type of work that you want to do? Are all the legs on the table? You got me? Okay? If you're angry, don't go do love work. Okay? You see what I'm saying? Correct. And however you're going to take advantage of it, whatever you're trying to tap into, that's the emotion you have to align yourself with. You just joined? This will be up on YouTube in a little bit, honey, because I'm just doing it live on TikTok, but it will be up on YouTube once it finishes processing here. We're talking about using the frequency of manifestation, or the frequency of an emotion that you are experiencing, and then using that to empower our work. But if you're not conscious of your underlying thoughts and emotions, you actually empower it against what you're trying to achieve, if that makes sense. Okay? So that's what we're discussing. Okay, about harnessing and narrowing. Okay, narrowing our focus when we apply pressure of any kind on any kind of spiritual work. You have to make sure that it's not like you have the right candle and, you might have the right date, the right candle, okay, and the right method, but did you have the right frequency to empower that work? Maybe that's why that's coming in slower, or maybe that's why you didn't hit it the way you wanted to hit it, because all 4 legs weren't on the table. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that you can only do work on particular events. That's not what I'm saying. That's just an added sprinkle. You feel me? Okay? As long as you have the right tools and the right method and the right energetic frequency, a work can be done at any time. It can backfire if we're coming from an unclear energy. Proper foundation is necessary. Correct. Right? And not criticizing anybody. There's so many gifted people on TikTok. There's people out here that's teaching you the right herbs and the right candles. And then you might, I suggest spread yourself out a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Just make sure that you're going to credible sources, right? But, there might be somebody that specializes in candle work. And there might be somebody else that specializes in manifestation. And there might be somebody else who specializes in energy work. Right? The point is for you to make sure that you have your foundation or the legs of your table up when you go to do your work. You see? Because the more you hone in on supporting what you're trying to achieve, the more fine-tuned you become. Okay? So this is why this is like a forever journey. Thank you guys for all the love. This is why it's like a forever journey, because as you go, you learn things. But then in addition to that, you also learn, you get the wisdom through the experience of like seeing where you were maybe energetically or emotionally, and how that affected work that you were doing in specific cycles. Okay? This is how you start to cultivate like your own structure, because everybody is spiritually different, your own structure and your own methods. Okay? They're going to be built on some type of foundation, and then you have to tweak them per your frequency and how it works best to support what you're trying to achieve. And that is a fine balance. That part, it's like nobody can teach you that, right? Right? So I come on here and I'm telling you right now, look, part of the thing that may be going wrong with your manifestation is that you're not necessarily matching your energy, or you're undermining what you're manifesting by the subconscious thoughts and conversations you have with yourself, by speaking negatively over situations and not recognizing that you're doing it. Right? I can't tell you, if I'm reading you, that's going to come out. But like in here collectively, right? I can't tell you, oh, you know what it is? Oh, your fourth grade teacher, talked down to you. So that shit stuck with you. And now you talk down to you. And that's what's fucking your shit up. I give you the tool. And you gotta get in there. Yeah, get in there. Yeah. You understand? And I just gave you like a real fucking example, and I'm gonna break it down. I grew up in New York City. And when I went into the school, it was your fourth grade teacher. When I went into the school system, understand, right, I guide you guys to the formula, and then you have to put it in practice. You understand? So when I was born, and I'm 52. I'm auntie. You know what I'm saying? You grew up in Yonkers? Okay. So you have to understand, the people from my age group, the minorities from my age group, we're basically like the ones that came into the school system after segregation ended. Okay? After. I was born in 1971. Okay? So we come into school, we don't know nothing about anything that has happened, because we were just, born, right? And, we're doing the Pledge of Allegiance and all this shit, right? So we believe what we're being taught, that everything is equal. You feel me? Now, it just happened. Yes, check your traumatic responses when you're manifesting, right? So now, take into consideration, I'm in first grade, but my teacher is like 70 something years old. No bullshit. Her name was Mrs. Toozle. She was my first grade teacher. This woman was so racist, but understand that 70 years before, 1970s would have been like at the 1900s. So of course this lady was racist. She grew up in a time, most of her life was spent, with segregation in place. I'm going to give you a real time example of how this shit works. Okay? She separated, this is New York City. She separated the class okay, by color. Okay, she separated the class by color, and then she put like a couple of white kids on the side of the minority children, but they were like the poor kids. Okay. And then what she said was, these are the smart kids and these are the stupid kids. What's good? And Empress? Okay? Do you understand? So she set all of us off over here, telling us that we were stupid. Okay? So I wear contacts and I wear glasses. Now, I was diagnosed of needing glasses like very early. It was the same year. I was fucking struggling to learn how to read, okay? Because I couldn't see, right? But this bitch was busy telling me that I was stupid, right? Man. So a lot of the kids, we were like believing that, especially me, because I couldn't see the words. So I'm really struggling. When my mother found out what this lady had done, she went to the school and blacked out, and they forced that lady to retire at the end of the school year. You understand? But the damage was done. Okay, the damage was done. Okay, how many of those kids that she had probably the year before me, right? Since segregation, 4 or 5 years, this was, 4 or 5 classrooms that she had done this shit to. Think about probably, a couple hundred kids. Okay, foundational experiences. So now we have those thoughts in our head. Okay. And it doesn't have to be a parent. I mean, it doesn't have to be a teacher. I just use that as an example. You understand? But these could be things that your parents said to you, a first boyfriend, a girlfriend, like they mar us. We continue. We don't pay attention to the underlying frequencies that we're holding in our body. And then when we go out into the world and we start learning, and then when you get your awakening and you're like, okay, there's something to this spiritual stuff, I'm going to try to hone in. The first thing you do is try to learn the knowledge, right? And that's good. It's important to soak up the knowledge. But the deprogramming is the core of the fucking problem. The deprogramming, in many ways, is more important. Okay? In many ways, that shit is more important, because without you recognizing the power of your frequency and what you've been loaning your power up, your frequency, what have you been loaning it to? Have you been loaning it to self-doubt? Have you been loaning that energy out to a sense of lack? Right? Yeah, it takes years. It's not overnight. Right? And let me tell you, when I was younger, and how I grew up, you had to be, Generation X, feral bunch, right? So you had to be tough. So we cultivated that. Our whole generation cultivated that shit. Okay? This is the foundation. We're the fucking foundation of thug life. You understand? But we didn't really, true, we had to raise ourselves, right? But we really didn't understand that what would have happened if we would have recognized earlier that our frequency could have powered up. We could have honed it and controlled it, where we wouldn't have had to use so much 3D physical force, because just as powerful you are with your with your physical frequency, your internal frequency is so much fucking stronger. Right? This is why it encourages me greatly when I see young people, okay, in their 20s, even 30s, online, talking about the deeper parts, the frequency that you have to be in, right? The deprogramming. When I see that shit makes me so happy. Why? Because when you're on your spiritual journey, you eventually, will come to the realization that a large part of what could be holding you back is the frequency of yesterday. It's the programming, right? And that you have to deprogram yourself. And the fact that these people, these young people, are getting it so much sooner is showing the elevation. It's showing the triggering of the indigo children of the all. The fact that they're showing me like a speed of light. Okay, thank you, my love. Thank you. It's showing me like the energy of like the speed of light. Like, in other words, they're traveling further, faster. And we, as the aunties and the uncles, and especially those of us who have esoteric knowledge like myself, who have been through the game and have the wisdom, right? Whether or not the ones that come after us surpass us, good. I don't give a fuck. Surpass me, baby. I want to help you and impart what I have so that it can continue, so that we could get further. That's the fucking point. When you do it during a cycle that reminds you of that program and bend the energy, it's very powerful. Yes, because then you are focusing, right? And it makes it easier, right? So I love to see the young people getting it, and then, getting like light bulb moments that takes it a step further. I'm all for it. Okay, I'm all for it. Take what I can give you, and if there's someone else that can give you something else, take that shit too, and power up, babes. Power up. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's important that we do as much as we can to assist each other. Okay? Assist each other. And, sometimes, and it's good, right? It's good for me in a different way. It's kind of like an opposite way, right? So I might see somebody who is recently, and when I say recently, I'll say like 5 years, right? Recently awakened. And they might remind me of something that I haven't put into practice in 15 years or something, right? And they could say something that gives it a different perspective, because I said it shows it as moving faster, right? That may spark that could be a piece that I had 20 years ago, and then I see something about that, and then something that I now know with the wisdom that I now know, I'm like, oh, so now I could use that shit, but all the way over here for this other shit. Because that's what happens when you get to a certain level. You realize that there's no, I just saw a TikTok a couple days ago about, women trying to learn how to bend spoons, right? And they're trying to build objects. Kudos to them, right? bend objects, right? But what I'm saying is you recognize that all the esoteric knowledge to an extent can be bent to your will as long as you're following base principles. So something you could have, not thought about in 15, 20 years, and someone who's young, who's seeing it from the first eyes, may have a different perspective on that, and it adds, right? And when that happens, we also want to impart it to you, like, oh, that's a great use of that frequency. Let me tell you what I know about that, and see if it assists you to take that process thought even further. That's what we're supposed to be doing right now, gang. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Okay? So whether it's an eclipse or it's not an eclipse, Spirit is talking about us understanding our own internal frequency, the transits and the frequencies that are happening around us, the end goal that we're trying to achieve, and the programming and the thought process that we have, and how we can use that as a table or a foundation to achieve particular goals. Okay? So, listen, we have till Saturday. You know what you're trying to manifest or clean up or rise to the surface so that you can shed, right? Spend this time trying to, align yourself with the frequency of the goal you're trying to achieve. Because if you're not in the frequency, it's like you threw the dart, but you didn't hit it. Does that make sense, guys? It's like throwing the dart, but not hitting it. So I feel like that's what Spirit kind of wanted to discuss today. Okay, about the alignment of yourself to be able to bring those things in. So I don't want to give a specific ritual because I feel like each of yous are going to be working on different sectors. Okay? Each of yous are going to be working on different sectors. So you need to harness that and work with that sector. Okay? So like, in other words, if you're working on the self-love, then work on that. Maybe pink candles is where it's at for you. Doing things that support a self-love type ritual. If you're doing money, then maybe you can get some ancestor money. And maybe, I think I have a video on that on YouTube that I could release. You want to support the type of work you're doing and then matching that frequency for the type of work. So me giving you a specific ritual it can work against, because we are in an eclipse season. So you have to be fully aware of the energy that you're in and then magnify that and use that frequency to target something that you need or want. Okay? So, trying to think of another way to put it. Let's say that you are worried about moving, that you have a time period, you have to move, right? Yes, you have to kind of tune it because this energy is so strong. So I don't kind of want to tell you like, oh, go do this, because that might not be the area that you need to be fucking with right now. Right? So let's say you need an apartment quick, fast, in a hurry. Right? Or you're, you applied for an apartment complex. Right? Or let's say you haven't applied for an apartment complex, but you have a concept of like what you want this precise type living accommodations. Go to that apartment place that you put your application in and get some fucking dirt. Just a little handful. Put that shit on your altar. Tell your ancestors, we got a lot of energy of sorrow right now because there's a lot of sorrowful things happening globally, right? Empathetic frequency. So get in your empathetic energy, in your empathetic bag, and asking for assistance, right? Burn some incense, put some harvest, maybe some dry beans and some coins, right? Some coffee for protection, salt for protection, right? Couple different things in there, right? And maybe burn some ancestor money if you're, low on funds, and tell your ancestors, I need a place right now. I need your assistance, right? And use the empathetic frequency to rise and support the work. Do you see how I'm saying use the energy according to the frequency you're in and the situation that you are in? If that makes sense. Are you guys following what I'm saying? Okay? Because sometimes even the sadness frequency can be used. Okay? Even if you have like a developed ancestor, a developed guide, and you're feeling really low, you know what I'm saying? You can say, I need you to help me remove the root of this problem, and use that shit. Right? Then if you go to your altar, your spiritual court, and you release it all, write that shit down, cry if you have to, then fucking burn it. So that you're using this energy to burn that away. You see how you can use every emotion to your benefit, but you have to target the underlying emotion and then use it to its greatest purpose. So it's not that I'm saying that, like, somebody putting up a money spell, for the collective is a bad thing. There's plenty of people who right now feeling the money crunch, and maybe that spell will assist them. But I'm telling you to look at it more from a personal place of where you are, what is emotionally happening for you, and how can you best use that underlying emotion that you have to target something you need to manifest, instead of just being like everywhere. I'm trying to give you the fourth leg of the table. Okay? So I'm not going to stay on all day, but are there any questions in reference to this? Does anybody have any questions in reference to this before I cut on out? Okay, because I feel like that's something that sometimes people don't take into consideration. Okay, so just start thinking about what is, I've been very thorough, thank you. Just think about what it is that you got going on. You got a couple days, right? what it is that you got going on. What is it that you need to target first? Don't forget the rubber band theory that I told you, the exercise. I'm going to put this up on YouTube as soon as this finishes processing. Right? And then, look it up. What will support that? So if you already know that what emotion you're working with, what target you're trying to achieve, go look up herbs that work with that or oils that work with that, okay? So we should be using the actual energy that we're in to manifest versus trying to fake the energy. Correct. Now, I'm glad that you put that, because I also feel like you can also amplify. So let's say, I'm going to give the ladies one. Let's say that you're feeling sexy, spicy that day. Baby, glamour magic. Right? Because that's going to boost it. So you spent the whole day in a sexy vibe. Right? Maybe you did a face mask. Maybe you shaved your legs. Maybe you took care of the bussy. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you did. Right? Do that spiritual bath. Light those red, orange, and yellow candles Spirit just said. Right? And empower that shit. Get in the mirror, do yourself a sexy dance. It don't matter. Nobody's watching. It's for you to raise that Kundalini energy and then go do your magic. You feel me? I do sometimes have classes, and this type of information that I'm giving out here is an example of the type of shit that we cover in Patreon. And actually, I plan to do like a glamour magic session over there for them, probably within the next week or so. Okay, so this is what I'm saying. Once you hone in on the energy that you got going on, how can you use that, and how do you need to magnify that to anchor in the work? Okay, so I want you guys to start, and you know how you can listen before I go. Okay, I am a water sign, and I am realizing how much my energy has to play a role. Thank you. I was doing all that self-care work. Yeah. Okay, so you were doing, so then that's what you need to highlight, right? For those of you that are not in it for a week and you really like making this like your spiritual, assignment. You don't got to write down everything, but like a short journal, even if it's a spell journal, right? A work journal where you put like, October 14th, 2023, I worked on self-love, used this color candle with these herbs or these supporting things, right? Maybe it wasn't even a candle, right? Whatever you put. And then the next time you can write down on a different date. Why am I saying that? Because you can go back, right? And a year later, you might be like, bitch, bye. That day that I did that love work or that glamour work on myself, and I had did 3 days of preparation, and I did that shit close to an eclipse, and I used this color candle, that shit hit like a motherfucker. You see what I'm saying? Then you might see another day where you wrote down, that day I really wasn't in alignment with that fucking frequency. This bitch pissed me off at work. I went the fuck off, and I came home and I tried to do some work that I had planned earlier, and the shit didn't hit. You see? So it doesn't have to be like, all this. It could just be little paragraphs that you write so you could keep track of your work and how that shit hit. Because sometimes the work don't show up for a couple months, right? So you might have forgotten about that shit already. And don't realize that, that was a great formula. We'll talk about that too. Look, that's a grimoire, but I'm teaching y'all shit. Pay attention. Okay? This is how you start to cultivate what works for you and what doesn't. Or maybe it didn't, that it didn't work, but there was something missing that day. Yes, the raw is on Patreon. And on the top level of Patreon, which is only $25 a month, not only do you get, a weekly prediction of what's happening in the world, okay? Not only do you get that weekly prediction, right? But the top tier also gets, extra content, and then they also get a month communal ritual that you guys vote on and that I carry out for the collective. Why? Because I know with the transits what I can target on behalf. So what I do is I say, okay, we do it on the new moons, right? And for those of you have till tomorrow to get in, because I'm doing the ritual on Saturday. Although this one isn't a vote one, because I know how to use the eclipse energy to target releasing, right? And I'm doing that for the collective, for the top tier of Patreon, right? And if you go in there and you join, you're gonna see the instructions of what you need to do. But anyway, they get that once a month. So for $25, you be included in a group ritual done by me every fucking month. In addition to the readings that I give them and the information that they get, similar to these, where we talk about, like I did one where it teaches them how to set up their altar, what they should not ever have on their fucking altar, those kind of things. That's all in the Patreon. Okay? Because I can't do that out here. Okay? So, do you also cover how to use your zodiac moon energy during moon phases? Yes and no. And I'm going to explain to you why. I was having this conversation with an astrologer that I follow, right? And he saw a reading of mine and he was like, yo, that shit describes X, Y, and Z transit that we just went through. And I explained to him, I do follow astrology heavily, but I read the opposite. Because I am I'm more in tuned spiritually. I feel the energy first, and then I go look at the chart and what the fuck is going on, because I feel X, Y, and Z. So a lot of the time, every week, I'll say, this is what's coming this week. This is what's happening. This is the energy I'm feeling. And then I'll be like, oh yeah, that makes sense because the moon is here, or all of that. You understand? So a lot of times I tell my Patreon, what it is that they need to, what areas of their chart they need to be targeting, what houses they need to look at to see what's hitting that. So it's stuff like that. But it may not be specifically for every quarter moon or things like that. It's done based off of what spirit wants us to focus on. Okay? So, and I pretty much do know all my participants' signs. Okay, so like if it comes up in a frequency, I'll say, okay, so maybe you Virgos need to concentrate on this. The Tauruses, the Aries is, so I give them the background information. Okay, I feel like, my Patreon is to develop further. It's not like TikTok. Okay, that's where we go, a little bit deeper. All right. But anyway, I will post this for you guys later today. It usually takes about an hour before this goes up on YouTube. If you came in late, you really want to watch from the beginning. It's important so that you understand how to use your existing frequency. Okay, to target manifestation, and also how to become conscious of the frequency that you are having and how that can affect your manifestation. So if you missed the beginning, head over to YouTube in a little bit. It'll be up for you guys, okay? I'm wishing you all light and love and blessings on blessings. Namaste, gang, gang. Bye.